Good morning. Forgive me for looking a bit tired. I am a bit tired. Um, Wanted to talk about the last couple of days, really, with the Rupert and Nige thing. This is my area, isn't it? Being very much a supporter of Restore. Um, when I first saw that video, I started watching it, and I thought, smacks a little bit of desperation. That was my initial thought. And then I gave myself a minute to think about it, and I was like, actually, no, okay, it's quite smart, isn't it? Sort of um, putting Nigel in a position where he doesn't want to be, out of his comfort zone, on the back foot. Does he respond? Does he ignore? What's he going to come back with? Because Nigel is an egomaniac. I think he's a very, very poor human being, and I have a lot of respect for Rupert. There are two very different men there. But anyway, so Rupert laid out these red lines. So I kind of took this really as a bit of a party political broadcast for mostly reform supporters, just to sort of present them with policies that I think that they would like very much. And obviously, the little the difficult bit, the impossible pill for Nigel to swallow of you got to get rid of the Tories in your party. So I think when Rupert made that video, I think he's pretty confident that Nigel wouldn't accept those terms. Of course, he couldn't, but it was just a way of just exposing it. And so then, well, hopefully this reaches some reform supporters. You could tell me, after those points, did you already know them? There are several different categories of reform supporter, aren't there? They're the pragmatic ones. Who's the woman that goes on Dan Wootton's show, and she's sort of like the reform apologist. Jezia, is it Jezia or something like that? Pretty girl, but she just has one comment all the time, and that is, you have to support reform because Restore can't win, and unless you support reform and vote for reform, Labour will win. And it's like, okay, I think I've heard that before for my entire life from the Conservative Party, and look what they've done every time they've had power. So it's a stupid comment, but it's the only point that she has. So, but are you in that, that idea, that camp, that position where you just think it's more pragmatic? Reform is bigger than Restore and have a better chance of winning. And then I suppose if you are in that camp, please also tell me truthfully, do you think that their policies, and name them, are as good or better than Restore's? And then also, do you really believe them? Because I find it's very vague with reform. And actually, I haven't done any research just recently into their actual policies. I have done with Restore, and every policy they come up with, I like it. So, yeah, address those. Also, let me know, how do you really feel about the people that have come into reform? I take it you were probably... No, actually, you might have been Labour or something like that before. You might have been politically homeless. I mean, I've been politically homeless for quite a while since I left UKIP. But do you trust reform? So there's other types of reform supporters. There's what I call the conformists, and they're just Nigel sycophants, and I get them in my comments. And what they do is they insult me because they've got nothing else. Because they know the truth deep down. They know what reform did to Rupert. They know that they got, is it Les Anderson or whatever it is, him and the Muslim bloke, made up some lies about him to the police, got him arrested, took away his guns, and the threat of going to prison. they did that. They did do that. And then Nigel admitted that that was not true. And they got rid of him just because he's further to the right than Nigel. And you're not allowed to be. But do let me know if you, I mean, obviously insult me as much as you want. Call me a thicky wicky. Call me a bit fatty watty. Ate too many pies. Oh, no, that really hurts when you say that because I didn't know I was fat and thick. I'm clever enough to see through the bullshit of Farage, though, aren't I? I'm trying to think what other type of reform supporters there are. There might just be those that are kind of new to sort of waking up a little bit and sort of maybe not even really aware of Rupert and Restore. You know, not really. They heard the name, but they don't know. But, you know, they've known for a very long time that Nigel is the anti-establishment and he's the guy, isn't he? You know, and they're finally sort of like, that for them is a brave move to go to the anti-establishment, not knowing that it's just the rebranding of the establishment after all. So when it comes down to the two men, even though I am still a bit sore with Rupert for comparing me personally to a neo-Nazi, because I'm not one, but I am a nationalist. And that's the only type of nationalist there is. You is either a nationalist and you accept that the people that make up the nation are indigenous, their ancestry lies in that nation, and therefore their ethnicity and their skin colour, etc., comes into it, and it is very much a part of the identity. So you either are a nationalist or you are not a nationalist. There is no civic nationalist. There is no ethno-nationalist. It's bullshit. But and I do think that they Restore HQ and Rupert need to address it. They can slag off neo-Nazis all they want, but don't compare somebody that realises that their group is being replaced and that they must collectivise in that group, and the policies of Restore, which actually are all really good and need to benefit the natives ahead of non-natives. They just do. But other than that, I still see a man of integrity that isn't perfect. He's obviously really posh and rich, but when he speaks, he's not talking down to anybody. He doesn't think he's above anybody. In my opinion, it just seems like an extremely decent man, the sort of man that if you knew him personally and you needed help or advice with anything, he'd be the first person you call. Not so much with Nige. You know, the Jack the Lad sort of act is just annoying. Clarkson on Top Gear would have referred to Nige as the Jag driver. You know, he turns up at your house for dinner. You know, you invite him for dinner. While he's there, he nicks the silver. He drinks your single malt, sleeps with your wife, and then drives off in the morning in his Jag. And that's Nige. And you either like that or you don't like that. But do you believe that he truly is the man that would actually do the things that you want them to do, the things that Rupert and Restore are promising? And deep down, I think you know you really like those policies, don't you? And deep down, you know that like the likes of Jenrick and Braverman were responsible for making sure that British people got murdered by savages they let in and made sure they didn't have to go through the correct sort of security checks. Just release them into the wild, kill the natives. He's brought them into reform, and he's obviously under the spell or under the financial coercion of a Muslim who wants to be the replacement. So, and anyway, so I think Nigel leaves sooner or later. He's going to give up. I didn't think he was going to respond, and so initially his first response, which I haven't read, and it was a Twitter, and it didn't acknowledge Rupert. It was sort of just vague sort of platitudes, and then he actually did directly address it, and it's just lies. You know, he's just desperately trying to still weave a lie. And once you realise someone is a liar, once you find somebody out, and it could be somebody, it could be the media, it could be whatever, you've red pilled, you realise the media are lying. Once you see it, it is so clear, and you can't unsee it, can you? You're never going to go back. And once you realise what Nigel is, then really you owe it to yourself to stop supporting the man. Cancel your membership with Reform, join Restore, and help restore. I still don't think that we really have a political solution to this. But I will, whilst we are pretending that there's a political solution to this, I will continue to support Restore, and I will campaign, and I will leaflet, and all those sorts of things. And everyone I've met so far involved with them is very good people, the sort of people that I want to be friends with. So that's my team. Clearly, I'm with Restore, but I say I think if you watch my channel for a while, you know that I think we have to do something much more persuasive to convince the establishment that they need to stop doing what they're doing and let us have our country back. But as I say, extremely persuasive. The sort of persuasion that really is the last straw, because that's what it comes to, because the establishment they're not going to take their foot off our neck. And they're not going to allow, in my opinion, Restore or any anti-establishment party to even have a chance of power. They'll do everything they can, lawfare, etc., to stop it. Anyway, that was a long rambling video, wasn't it? I haven't done one for a little while. Hope you're all well, and let me know in the comments. Obviously, Restore voters, let me know what you think. But obviously, more to the Reform people out there. Just try to address those points. Tell me honestly. Why are you supporting Reform? Done it again. Why do they choose names that are so similar? Anyway, I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.